Is America exceptional? That is the question we will explore today. Welcome back to Liberty's Hill, where we explore how can we create a world of human flourishing with liberty, justice, dignity, and prosperity. I am Dr. Bill Brannan, a pastor at Life Springs Church in Liberty Hill, Texas. I have often been intrigued by people's response when I talk about American exceptionalism. What often happens is that people's imagination rather than history defines the term for them. It seems to some that it is a term that refers to an arrogant opinion that we are inherently better than other people. Instead, it refers to the fact that very soon after America's founding, we were the most enlightened and free nation in the world. The next question we need to ask is what made us exceptional? What is the source of American exceptionalism? Was it the result of the form of government that we established? Alexis de Tocqueville came to America to explore that question, and here is some of what he wrote. The sects which exist in the United States are innumerable. They all differ in respect to the worship which is due from man to his Creator, but they all agree in respect to the duties which are due from man to man. Each sect adores the deity in its own peculiar manner, but all the sects preach the same moral law in the name of God. Moreover, almost all the sects in the United States are comprised within the great unity of Christianity, and Christian morality is everywhere the same. There is no country in the whole world in which the Christian religion retains a greater influence over the souls of men than in America. And there can be no greater proof of its utility and of its conformity to human nature than that its influence is most powerfully felt over the most enlightened and free nation on the earth. According to de Tocqueville, Christianity in America is the root and source of American exceptionalism. This was not something that occurred suddenly at our founding, but rather was the natural result of about 180 years of Christian enculturation in the colonies that were heirs of about 1,800 years of a Christian inheritance in Western civilization. When biblical faith and values are adopted by a culture, it becomes more humane and experiences incredible blessings. Yet it is a process of personal and social transformation. It is a trajectory that begins a journey to create a better world. When we study history, we find that there are many incredible blessings to culture that happen almost immediately when embracing Christian faith and values. Yet there are other areas where biblical faith and values have not yet transformed. If people will continue in the trajectory, we will continually create a better world. Sometimes there are incredible leaps forward, and this happened through the Reformation because scriptures were translated into the common language and people were encouraged to read scripture for themselves. Practically, before universal education, this was primarily among the educated. What did happen through an educated clergy was the proliferation of biblical ideas and values to the common person. This led to people, after discovering the truth of Scripture, to hold civil and religious leaders accountable to Scripture. Unfortunately, the idea of separation of church and state, which is a biblical value, was not adopted. The general thinking was that since religion unites a society, the state had to be united by uniformity in the church. Even after Britain broke with the Roman Catholic Church, that idea still prevailed, but now with the king rather than the pope as the head of the English Church. Two groups emerged that were both eventually persecuted by the Church of England, the Pilgrims and the Puritans. Both groups did not believe the Church of England was being faithful to Scripture. The Pilgrims separated from the Church of England, while the Puritans sought to reform it. Both groups immigrated to America in search of religious freedom in the 1600s and laid the foundation for American exceptionalism. Over time, many Christian sects came to America, and because of the vast availability of land, were able to coexist well in the colonies, even though many colonies had an established religion. What de Tocqueville found was that all of the Christian sects were united by a common biblical morality. One of the contributors to this was the value placed on education and the emphasis on the Bible. People learned to read and read the Bible for themselves. New England was a driving force behind much of early American education, and pastors were often the educators. Many of the universities were founded to prepare students for the ministry. Because of their deep conviction of the value of the Bible to create a better world, Bible societies were founded to print Bibles, to give to people, even to Native Americans. This was even eventually funded by the United States government. The impact of the Bible on American exceptionalism is described by de Tocqueville. Religion in America takes no direct part in the government of society, but it must nevertheless be regarded as the foremost of the political institutions of that country. For if it does not impart a taste for freedom, it facilitates the use of free institutions. Indeed, it is in the same point of view that the inhabitants of the United States themselves look upon religious belief. I do not know whether all of the Americans have a sincere faith in their religion, for who can search the human heart? But I am certain that they hold it to be indispensable to the maintenance of Republican institutions. Regardless of whether people had a sincere faith in Jesus Christ, the biblical enculturation was the root and source of American exceptionalism. Even the forms of government reflected this inheritance from their checks and balances on power to the representative form of government they adopted. This is not surprising because many of the Christian sects, including Pilgrims and Puritans, held to congregational forms of church government, based on their understanding of the Bible. When answering the question whether America is exceptional, I believe de Tocqueville alone proves that point. Is it due to our economic prosperity or our representative form of government? No, those are byproducts of the encultured biblical faith and values. If we want liberty and prosperity to flourish in America again, we need to reconnect with the source. What is exciting to me is that it is not even required that a majority of Americans become Christian. I once had a discussion with someone who probably accurately asserted that maybe 10% of Americans at the time of our founding were sincere Christians. That did not matter because a biblical worldview was the world they lived in. In addition, because education was rooted in the Christian tradition, which was founded on the Bible, but included a full classical education, they were able to create a tolerant, flourishing society for all people, regardless of their faith or lack thereof. It was an education in wisdom and virtue. Because the best educated were cultural and civil leaders, and they received a good education, a strong foundation for human flourishing was laid in America. We can restore liberty and human flourishing in America, but it will not be done through religious coercion or political reform. It can only happen if we reinculturate the faith and values of our founding fathers. Maybe we should adopt the slogan, "Make America Exceptional Again." Please let me know what you think in the comments below, and please subscribe to my channel.